Yes. Yeah, you absolutely. You can email the lab. We'd be happy to talk about that. I actually go to Canada almost once a month. If are you in Ontario? Oh, oh, well, that's lovely. I'll go to somewhere else. But yes, that'd be great. Yes, would love to think about that. I mean, we don't currently have plans to do that, but that doesn't mean we couldn't. And so I do think the intermixing of the breeding population is sufficient in North America that it wouldn't ruin the study to have dogs from Canada in it, for example. So yeah, yes.
I just have a question as far as breeding age, because in whippets, a lot of people breed younger versus earlier, and we know that MBD can onset, say, around, well, okay, anywhere from 2 to 4, but that's the common age that a lot of dogs are bred. Some of us, like I wait till they're at least 5 and have a clear echo. Is there any literature to show that waiting until they're older for a clear MBD at say 5 instead of breeding at 2 and 4 would be beneficial? Because
There
I know so many people breed younger versus older.
there is some really lovely data. Actually, I did not show this, but there are some breeding protocols, particularly around Cavaliers in Europe and the UK, that show a very clear benefit to breeding protocols that require dogs to be clear until middle age before they're kind of enrolled into breeding. And so I do think they're doing essentially with that program what this study is aiming to do, right? Removing dogs that are getting disease early from the breeding population. They're just doing it in the hard way, right? Like that's tough. And so is it better? Probably. Is it practical? Not always. I do think, if you have an incredible, stellar male that you think you're going to breed a billion times because they're changing the face of whippets across North America, you know, the responsible thing might be to collect that dog a bunch and not sell it until you're sure that he's clear for a few years. But yes.
So I have a dog at home that's early onset. He's not here.
Yes.
Can my veterinarian pull blood and send it to you?
Not exactly. So the question is, if I have a dog that I know is early onset, can we just use the previous data and send you blood? Not exactly, because we're trying to mandate that we're doing the screening process and the qualification of the disease severity at very regimented ways. And so if it was done by Dr. Steppen and Dr. Callahan, might we be able to figure it out and make an exception there? Yes. Otherwise, what I would love to do is find a way for you to get to a place that we can enroll your dog.
So do you have locations and you could eventually list where somebody can go in different parts of the country?
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm in Florida.
Yes. We're in North Carolina. So Raleigh, North Carolina is where Allie and I reside. We can do it there. We have Wisconsin on the books. I go out to California and hang out with Aaron Lucas quite a bit. So we can do West Coast, East Coast, North Central, but we can figure that out. Yes. Well, so at the institutions, like at Wisconsin and at North Carolina, we can kind of just book those anytime. That we don't have to have an event for that. Like in California, we generally do events. So we'll have to figure out when we get the study fully funded and rolling forward. We'll try to put together screening schedules and calendars to share out through the group. Yeah.
Because Heidi does do goes out places.
She does. Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's a lot for us to ask Heidi when she goes out someplace to also take a centrifuge and draw blood and freeze it on dry ice. And so, and I can't probably send Allie everywhere that Heidi goes. So we'll sort that out. But yes.
Okay, so my question, going from anecdotes, I know two people who had echoes on their dogs, younger, on the younger side, but suggested mitral valve disease, and then they repeat the echo less than a year later, and clear. Same cardiologist? Different cardiologists, both cite home savvy. So is it just maybe the difference being the doctors, but both being cite home savvy?
I think trivial mitral valve regurgitation is an area where some people call things a bit differently than other people. And so I think there's a possibility that these dogs are getting caught up in that, where one person might fail a dog and say, this looks like a dog that'll progress, and another person might say, this looks to be functional and not of consequence. I don't know. Unfortunately, that is that kind of echo shopping thing is a problem that happens. And without going back to the same person and comparing the same images, it's very hard to know what to do with that.
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah.
Many of you who have been, I see you over there, and I'm not going to let this go. She's got a question over there. Many of you have heard from Heidi while she's doing the echo, and we're writing down that the dogs have a trivial narrow central jet of MR. And it's a skinny little jet that just goes right up the center. Often you can't hear it with an auscultation because there's non-moving blood surrounding it. So there's a little squirt, but it's completely muffled. So even though it's there, I can't hear it when I'm doing auscultation. And Heidi says, yeah, it's a narrow central jet. We call that normal because we've seen it a gazillion times. In humans, it's a pretty common athletic finding. So if you have an athlete and they have, in many studies of human athletes, they'll say, we don't even talk about trivial mitral regurgitation because it's just like an athletic thing, and it's not an issue. And we see that, but what we have been, and this time there have been several people who've come in with, the dog was previously either not passed or on the edge. And then Heidi says, well, yeah, it has a skinny central jet. And we're like, well, that's what the problem is, because as Josh was saying, people interpret those differently. And our observation over these 20 years that we've been looking at it is the dogs who have those are at no higher risk of developing mitral valve disease than the next dog over who didn't have that. It's not an indicator that mitral valve disease is coming, but it has a very specific look to it. And if the jet is going off one way or the other, then it probably means that there's a problem with the valve. But if it's just right up the center and it's a little tiny squirt, that is just a variation of normal. And Heidi keeps saying that. She's like, yeah, it's not a big deal, it's normal. And I think she's right. I mean, that's how we arrived at this conclusion. So that, I think, there's a lot of echo shopping. And I think, I encourage you to echo shop if you're getting a finding that you didn't expect. And I know some of you have a line of dogs who just really haven't had a problem with this, and then suddenly this young dog doesn't pass, and it's a real concern. Get a second opinion, and even though people are savvy to sight hounds, they might interpret it slightly differently than we would do it at one of these shows. So it sounds a little mushy, but I think our experience over the long haul has been that those dogs are not at higher risk than anybody else for developing disease of their mitral valve. Does that make sense to everybody?
Can that central leak disappear completely?
Yes. And it may be there or it may not be there depending on how hyped up the dog is and how dehydrated they might be in the morning versus the afternoon. So it's quite variable. And so that's why we tend to think it's probably more of a physiologic problem than an anatomic abnormality.
Is there a way from reading the report to tell if that's what the problem was that they?
Yeah, it depends on who writes the report. So we're always writing narrow, trivial central jet, normal. But other people might say mild mitral regurgitation, how they interpret it. So If all of the chamber sizes are normal, if the mitral valve itself is not reported to be abnormal, then you might say, well, maybe I'll have somebody else look at this and see if it's a big deal or not. And maybe the dog won't have it the next time it's done. If they truly have mitral valve disease, it'll happen every time. They won't miss it.
Many levels of sighthound savvy,
Yeah.
right? This is like the ultimate boss in the video game. You get to the 10th level. That's Dr. Steppen and Dr. Callahan. Yes. Yes.
I go see Dr. Luis Brasso in Texas.
Yeah.
And I used to bring my dogs here every year. The pack has grown. I can't do that. Whereas I can load them all up in the truck and take them 2 hours away. So I don't want y'all to miss out on 5, 7, 8. Is the blood draw something that he can pull for you and send the echo?
No.
Down? Okay. All right.
We could get you to College Station maybe. That way.
Yes. I mean, I think we are very fortunate that this is a really engaged community. I think we will get the numbers we need. And when we get to the point where we found something of interest, there will be opportunity to, contribute to the epidemiology of it by doing cheek swabs and mailing them to us and all the rest. I think for right now, we want to be really certain that we're not accidentally including a dog that somebody saw a trivial central jet and called mitral regurgitation when we would have called it normal. And so we are holding that really close as a requirement. Sure. Yes. Yes. There was one question over here. We got it. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Great. Yes.
So, one echo that I had done, and I tried to say, isn't that an athletic murmur? And I got a, no, it's not. There's no such thing as an athletic murmur. So when we, as owners, were in with cardiologists doing this, and they tried to tell us that there's no such thing as an athletic murmur, how do we respond to that when we know our breed?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, I think that's a really interesting conundrum that happens. It happened to me when I went to my physician not so long ago, and they recommended that I start a drug that I didn't want to start, and I gave them the American Heart Association guidelines and said no. I'll tell you, he didn't like me after that, and I'm not going back. So what you decide to do in that is up to you. I think it's really important that you have a relationship with your specialist, particularly as breeders, that that they know about your breed and work with you in that, and you can have that kind of discussion. If that kind of discussion isn't something you can have, it's probably not the right place for you to be. Not everybody likes to do echo screening clinics. Not everybody likes to do advanced cardiac OFAs. Not everybody likes to see purebred dogs. I mean, it's a continuum, and so you got to find a place that works for you and with you, and go from there.
The paper that we published, I think it was in 2017, that had the percentage of murmurs and where the murmurs were and stuff. That paper just, it pretty much laid it out. Like, this murmur, that murmur, here's what the echo looked like, here's what it didn't look like. And so, I'm tempted to just say, well, email me and I'll send you the publication. But well, no, definitely do it. But the, Josh's point is a good one. If you say to somebody, well, here's a paper, they may not take that well.
Yeah. Precisely.
I have had one that I said, well, Dr. Callahan did a year ago and showed him the paper.
Oh, it's like Callahan. Oh, yeah.
They know.
Yes. It got answered. Yes. Yeah.
Piggyback on that, is there any type of central repository where you can find some of this documentation? Because I've had something similar with a different breed where cardiologists
Yeah.
failed like
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think Jay can be a credible resource for you all because it sounds like you're asking for that resource, and so I bet we could create that resource where those papers live.
Well, to be fair, copyright notwithstanding, because I can, yeah, exactly. I'm looking at my library. It's like some of those papers that are published may be free access, so you can Google them and find them, or you can go to PubMed and find them, and I can provide you with this reference information. However, some of them require you to pay the journal to buy them. So I just want to say I cannot just
We're
I can't just take them and put them on someplace and you all can have them.
we're talking open access for the ones that we're talking about at least, and so
But I can,
we'll get there.
So many different words
Yeah,
that
yeah. But I think
everybody's gonna know what to use for.
but I think you're right. Having that resource would be helpful. Unfortunately, OFA standards for clearing dogs for breeding are not something we have, right? We do not have a standardized repository that says you have to clear dogs that meet these criteria and you have to fail dogs that meet these criteria. They are varied.
Saying, there is a paper that supports what she was saying.
Yes, absolutely, which would be very helpful for you. Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, that paper about the murmurs and the paper that compares athletic whippets to less athletic whippets and what their normal values are for about 50 million measurements of echo, both of those papers are open access. So I can give the references to Jay, and then you can just go online and go get them. You can just download
Yeah.
PDFs, and then you'll have it.
Yes. In fact, I think all the papers I put in my presentation today are open access. So well, we can make them available through, yeah. Yes. Not a lot, but some. As the heart size gets bigger, arrhythmias can happen. Yeah.
And does medication help them?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, some whippets need antiarrhythmics as part of their treatment. Yeah. All right. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. So everything we do is always open access. So whenever we do whole genome sequencing studies, those are available for anybody to use for the rest of eternity. And so, for example, if there was a rare, potentially heritable disorder that cropped up in whippets, you could take 4 whippets with that disease and compare it to the 200 whippets I have and find the mutation straight away, and you wouldn't have to pay for any controls. Yes, so they will be available. They'll be publicly accessible for all geneticists to go out, grab, and work with. Yeah, and in fact, we use them all the time. So we maintain a database of, I think, 6,000 dogs now across 40 or 50 breeds, and use that frequently to look at genetic disease. Yes. So you mean, is there a potential to go after other genetic diseases later using this data as part of it? Yeah. Yes, there would be. Yeah. I mean, we'd have to decide how we do it, what the study looks like, go after grant funding for it, or find a way to pay for it. all those things. But yes. Yeah. All right.